Hello and welcome to the History.It channel. Today we will be looking into the chapter 12 itself. Last time we had covered the Harshavardhana and Vardhana dynasty. Today we will be looking into Chalukyas and Pallavas. So we earlier learned that when the Vardhana dynasty was there in Thaneshwar and Harshavardhana was one of the greatest kings. In the South India, there were two powers, Chalukyas and Pallavas. So we will learn a little bit more about them, what was happening in the 6th, 7th, 8th century, what was happening in South India. Okay. First we will begin with Chalukyas and we will look into their political history, we will look into their trade and art, then we will cover Pallavas and look into who were the rulers, and we will also look into their administration and art. Okay. So first let us start with Chalukyas. So Chalukyas was there sometime between mid 6th to 8th century AD. Okay. They were from 6th to 8th century AD. And they had, after, remember Satavahanas? They were there in South India after the fall of Satavahana Empire. After the fall of Satavahana Empire, the Chalukyan Empire rose in Karnataka. Okay. So, their capital was at Badami. Badami is a place in Karnataka, and today there are very beautiful cave temples in Badami. So their capital was in Badami. So how do we know about Chalukyas? We know about them because of Huinsang. He was the Chinese person, a Chinese Buddhist traveler who had come during Harshavardhana's time, and he has recorded a lot of information about our country. So he has written about Harshavardhana, he has written about Chalukyan rule. So we have plenty of information about Chalukyas thanks to Huinsang. Also we have inscriptions, many inscriptions are there. Out of them, one of the inscriptions is Aihole inscription, which is a very important inscription. We will talk about it in the later this one. So these are the things, Huinsang and many of the inscriptions. Because of them we know about the Chalukyas. So this is about the introduction part. Let us now see the political history. So if you look at how did they come? Who were the Chalukyas? If they look, many historians believe that they were local farmers, very powerful. Slowly they became a powerful dynasty. That is what many of them believe. If you see their symbol, every kingdom has a symbol. So the Chalukyan symbol is the boar. So if you look at their temple architecture, their sculptures, often you will find a picture of a boar. So that was their stamp or symbol. Okay. Then they were all followers of Vishnu. Okay. So this is a little bit about them. This one. So the first king who we have history about is Pulakeshi I. Even before there were early rulers, but Pulakeshi I was the king who who became independent. He made Badami as his capital, built a fort there, built a fort at Badami, and made Chalukyan kingdom independent. So we remember Pulakeshi I. Later on, his son came to rule Chalukyan kingdom. After some years, his son also came. So Pulakeshi's one son, his name was Kirtivarma, ruled for some time. Later, his son Pulakeshi II ruled the Chalukyan kingdom. In between, his uncle also had, Pulakeshi II's uncle also had taken over the kingdom. So Pulakeshi II had to fight with his uncle Then he got his kingdom back, and so Pulakeshi too is recognized as a very powerful king. Now Pulakeshi too had a poet. His name was Ravi Kirti. So just like Harshavardhana had a poet Harisena, and he had written about Harshavardhana. Not Harisena. Like Harshavardhana time, we had Banabhatta who had written Harshacharita. Similarly, Pulakeshi's time, we have a poet called Ravi Kirti who had written something called in the praise of king. He had written few words. That is known as Aihole inscription. As it is in a praise of a king, it's also known as Prashasthi. So you remember the last time we heard about Prashasthi was during the Gupta Emperor time. Samudragupta's poet was Harisena. So Harisena had written also a Prashasthi, that is the Allahabad pillar. Similarly, during Pulakeshi II time, Ravi Kirti also had written a Prashasthi at Aihole. So what is a Prashasthi? In praise of the king, whatever we write, it is known as Prashasthi. So the Ravi Kirti had written an Aihole inscription that talks about Pulakeshi II. So who was Pulakeshi, whom and all he fought, all that he has written in the Aihole inscription. So he says that Pulakeshi II first fought with his uncle, then later he defeated Rashtrakutas, he defeated other kings, Pallavas and all, and he also defeated Harshavardhana, who had come down to south. Remember in Harshavardhana's chapter, he was stopped in river Narmada by by a Chalukyan ruler. That was Pulakeshi II. This is mentioned both by Huin Sang and Ravi Kirti. That Harshavardhana, there was a battle between Harshavardhana and Pulakeshi II, and Harshavardhana did not come down south. Okay. So these details are there in the Aihole inscription. So what and all he has told, he has defeated Harshavardhana. He has later on he went on a conquest, trying to get more and more kingdoms. That time he also fought with Rashtrakutas. These were other kingdoms in the south. Later they came. He also fought with the Pallavas. That is this Pallavas. So that's why we remember Pulakeshi. Okay. So when he now Pulakeshi II had good relationship with the Southeast Asian countries. So in fact, he had a good relationship even with Persia. So we have there are some paintings which depict Persian Emperor Khusro. So we know that there was good trade relationship between Pulakeshi II and the other countries, especially Iran and all. So in religion, Chalukyas they followed both Vishnu and Shiva, and in Aihole, Badami and all, there are beautiful cave temples. And they have very nice sculptures of Shiva, Vishnu, and there are Jain Tirthankaras. All these sculptures are still there in the Badami and Aihole caves. So it's a very good tourist place. So seeing those sculptures also, we realize and we know more about Chalukyas. So political history, we learned that there was Pulakeshi I, there was Pulakeshi II, Ravi Kirti was the poet and he has written the Aihole inscription, and Pulakeshi II defeated Harshavardhana, Rashtrakutas and also later on Pallavas. Though he had frequent battles with the Pallavas, finally the Pallavas defeated Pulakeshi II, and that's how Chalukyan Empire declined. So that's about political history. Trade, they had good contacts with Southeast Asian countries. Art, there is a lot of monasteries, caves, cave temples, all of them are present in there, and even paintings are there during the Chalukyan time. So you can have a look at the map of Chalukyas just to get an idea of how big their empire was. Next we will look into Pallavas. Okay. Now the Pallavas also started during the 7th century, and after the decline of Satavahana rule, both Chalukyas and Pallavas had come in the south. Whereas Chalukyas were majorly in Karnataka, Pallavas were majorly in Tamil Nadu and south of Andhra Pradesh. So the capital of Pallavas was Kanchipuram or Kanchi. So whereas Chalukyas capital was Badami, Pallavas capital was in Kanchi. So, whole of Tamil Nadu they did, and they fought frequently with the Chalukyas. And finally, they defeated the Chalukyas also. So, there were some early rulers, even before 7th century, that is from 4th to 6th century AD. There were some 16 Pallava rulers, but they are mentioned we won't do now. Today we look into only two rulers who are very important, that is later rulers. Their names were Mahendravarman and Narasimhavarman. These were very powerful kings. They built a lot of temples and all. So we remember them. Okay, and they frequently fought with Chalukyas, and by mid 8th century, their power also declined. So let us little bit take a look into their administration. The administration, one of the things about Pallavas is, so we learned about the intro, that is they started from 7th century. By mid 8th century they had declined. Early rulers we looked into, there were some 16 rulers. Later rulers, important rulers were Mahendravarman and Narasimhavarman. Okay. Now we will look into their administration. Administration, like the other empires, theirs was also decentralized. Decentralized means the power was given to not the center, but the power was also given to villages. Okay. So in administration, it is said that the villages were very powerful. They were self-governing. What do you mean by self-governing? That is, the villages were functioning as independent units. So they had assemblies, there were elders, they used to vote, and they used to solve the village problem themselves. If the problem was very big, only then it used to go to the king or ministers. Otherwise, most of the activities the village itself handled. So there were many assemblies or groups. So there was a group of Brahmins which was known as Sabha. There was a group of non-Brahmins which was known as Ur. Then there were a group of traders which was known as Nagaram. So all these assemblies were there and they functioned according to their rule. So what they did was, see, in village there are lands, tax has to be collected, then wells have to be built, repairs have to be made. So for each activity there would be a department. So that's how they divided and they looked after the village. So there were different departments for looking after wells, there were for lakes, for repairs. So all this villages were there, village departments were there. There was a headman, there was assemblies and all. So how do we know so much? Because there are a lot of inscriptions which talk about how villages used to function during the Pallava rule. Then we will come to there were subcommittees, that is what is mentioned, which used to look after. Then we will come to the artwork. Artwork, they have built very beautiful temples. One of the famous temple is in Mahabalipuram. So Mahabalipuram was founded by Narasimhavarman I. Mahabalipuram, there is a famous shore temple. There is also there is also temples of stone which is cut like a chariot. It is known as the um, seven rathas. Ratha means chariot. So Mahabalipuram, there is a famous. Let me write here. Shore temple, and there are seven chariots, each belonging to Pandavas. Pandava story you have known, right? So there is a Arjuna Ratha, there is a Draupadi Ratha, there is the Bhima Ratha, all that. So all these Rathas or chariots are made of stone, and they are there in Mahabalipuram. So that is one of the beautiful temples in Mahabalipuram. Okay. So let's take a look at the picture. Then the another beautiful temple which is there is in Kanchi, that is the Kailashanatha temple. So this is what you have to remember. Okay, in art you have to remember the Shore temple in Mahabalipuram, and in Kanchi Kailashanatha temple. Okay, and administration also you should remember that it was very self-governing, self-sufficient units. So Pallavas also declined because of frequent wars with the Chalukyas, Pandyas, Cholas, and all of them. There were many different kingdoms. So Cholas were there, Pandyas were there. So frequent fights led their decline also. So by mid 8th century, all these were existing. Chalukyas were there, Pandyas were there, Pallavas were there, but they were not so. Their power had already declined.